Good morning. So today we are going to actually struggle with the chains. With chains, 90% of the times you will not ever have to, use it in practical life. I have never used chains on the tires so far, and so many drivers that I know who are driving for years, I think they have probably used it once or twice in their long-term driving career. However, it also depends in the area that you're working in, what state and province you're working in on a regular basis. So it's good to know how to put chains on the tires, some of the regulations that comes with it, and some of the best practices that you can follow. Okay, let me first give you a little insight of how I ended up arranging a chain, because I usually don't use chains and I don't really have to. So I ended up going to a pile of used old stuff that was sitting somewhere, and I found two types of chains there, which I will show you in the coming part of the video. However, there was one chain that was the best suit for the tires of my truck, so we are actually going to take that chain and see how we can work with it. I have my own way of putting chain on the tire, which I came up after practicing with them. There is no standard form of doing it. So the entire idea and goal of doing is that you should know how to put the chains on securely. So after practicing, you can come up with your own way of dealing with it. I am just going to show you how I find it easy. Hopefully that can be your own way as well. So now I'm gonna go see if I can find a chain that we can use to put on the tire and see how it goes. I do see a lot of stuff sitting there, so I'm just gonna go and see if there is, maybe even if there is a single chain, that will do. Let's go. So before we get into the process of how to put the chains on the tire, we first need to understand some things you want to consider before you just go and get your chains. First of all, that the rules and regulations for chains vary from state to state and province to province. Especially when it comes to US and Canada. In US, the Department of Transportation regulates the rules and regulations when it comes to chains, and in Canada, it's the Ministry of Transportation. Now, when we wanna look into getting chains, there are a few factors to start with. First of all, why do we actually need chains? There are certain areas in Canada as well as in US when winter tires are just not enough for traction. So there are rules that you may have to carry and use chains for traction. The second thing that we want to consider is what type of chains are required as per the rules. And third thing we want to consider is our vehicle specifications. Basically, you want to go through the manual of your vehicle and see what it can support. Then you wanna also get into the installation part of it. So we will now, after discussing all these factors, we are gonna go and see how you can put the chains on the tire. The last but not least, you wanna also look at the signage. So every single state or province that you're gonna cross while driving usually has signs that says if you have to carry the chains or if you have to put the chains on the tires. So it totally depends on the weather conditions. So now, before we get into the rules and regulations part of it and understand how many chains you need and what state or province have what rules, let's first see how to put a chain on. So I have entangled the chain. Some people usually put the chain on the tire and move forward or backward, but I'm gonna just put it behind my tires and move backwards just enough so that I can wrap it up around the tire. This is enough of the tire on the chain. Now I will just take everything and wrap over and lock everything here. So this is usually how it should be chained. People use bungee cord. I don't have at the moment, but use bungee cord to connect the corners so that it doesn't damage us while driving. Everything is locked and tight. So now that we have struggled and learned how to put the chains on the tire, let's go and dig into how to navigate through the rules and regulations. So when I started my driving career, to be honest, I was so confused with all the rules and regulations because there's so much information when you actually go through and look for it, and it's so hard to remember everything. I came up with something easier for myself that helped me, which I'm going to share with you guys. You can use it. There is no harm in using it, or you can refer to it. I hope that will help somebody. How I started doing it was I would just go to the MT or DOT website and check for my province that I am in. And the first thing that I would check was if the province permits chains or no, because there are certain provinces that do not permit chain. There are some reasons to it. One of them being is chains can damage the highways and the roads, which can have consequences for you to pay some fine if you do so. So it's better you know the rules. Other thing you want to check after you are done doing that is you want to look for the certain period of times when you should have the chains in your truck. There are dates mentioned on the website when you should carry chains in your truck, and that's mandatory if it's mentioned there. Once you look for that, then you want to check for type of chains and number of chains that you need. According to the transportation regulations, there is a certain number of chains you should have in your truck depending on the tires that you have. Let's say you have wide base tires or dual tires, so it will depend on the type of tires how many chains you should carry. And when it comes to type of chains, single or triple, that will also be mentioned in the guidelines there. The other thing that you want to look for is signage. There are certain ministry signage instructions. Basically, let's say you are driving in a bad weather and there is sign and the lights are on. It says that you have to put your chains on when lights blinking or something like that. So keep your eyes open when it comes to signs like that, and be aware. Look in advance for what kind of signs you're looking for when it's about chain. Then you want to look for any special instructions. So special instructions can be speed related instructions, or there are actually special instructions when it comes to what tires should have chains on, what axles should have chains on. So it varies from province to province. The guidelines will tell you if your drive axle, front tire, your tandem axle, back tire, outside tire, inside tire, there are so many regulations to it. So you want to go through all the special instructions before you get onto the road. Check if there is any penalty if you don't follow the rules and regulations, because this is kind of serious situation. Chains come into action only when the weather conditions are worst and your winter tires are definitely not effective enough. So the fines of not following these rules, because you will probably end up compromising on the safety, it's important that you go through all these instructions. Then you want to look for how many chains you should have. There is a minimum requirement of chains that you must carry. That's pretty much it regarding chains, rules and regulations in brief. I hope that helps you guys. Let's just wind up our entire learning and see some of the best practices that you should follow and some recommendations before you hit the road in winters. First of all, prepare yourself in advance. Make sure you have everything available to yourself before you get into tricky situations, of course. The second thing that you want to do is stay updated with the rules and regulations, because there can be changes depending on the weather conditions. So be updated. Third, practice in advance. putting chains on as easy. I don't know, it looked easy or difficult, but it's difficult in practical life. So you want to practice in advance, check all the locks of your chains are working, it's in good condition. Please don't wait that winters will come and then you will prepare yourself. The other thing you want to do is stay updated with the speed limits usually when you have your chains on, in order to not damage the roads and highways, maintain safety, as well as it can also damage chains if you drive fast. So please be watchful of that. I think that's pretty much it. I will provide some sources for credible links that you can refer to, and then I will also provide a couple of documents that you can refer to in order to just like have a look of what needs to be done. In the bio, for any concerns, any comments, suggestions, anything that you guys do differently, or anything that I might have missed, feel free to comment in the comment box. It was a great experience. I'm glad that I could do it and I did not forget about it, which is good. So thanks for watching me today. Before steering ahead, let's learn together, and I will see you at the next turn.